Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Ad America TV. My name is Anton. I'm one of the e-guides here at Ad America. And Ad America is the U.S. Embassy's American Center here in Jakarta, and our mission is to provide a space for young Indonesians to learn more about the United States. Welcome to all of our audience tuning in to Ad America TV. In this morning's episode of Ad America TV titled Grounding Creative Economy and Tradition, we're going to be discussing traditional art and creative economy. So if you are interested in those sectors, this is definitely the event for you. And now, I have an icebreaker question for you guys who are watching. And that question is, which one of these sectors is not considered part of Indonesia's creative economy? Is it A, culinary arts, B, interior design, C, sports, or D, fashion? I'll repeat the question one more time. Which one of these sectors is not considered part of Indonesia's creative economy? Is it A, culinary arts, B, interior design, C, sports, or D, fashion? You can answer this question in the comment section of our social media. And now, before we begin today's event, I would like to invite Pak Leo Jilk, Assistant Cultural Attaché from the U.S. Embassy in Jakarta, for the opening remarks.
Baik, terima kasih dan atas nama Kedutaan Besar Amerika Serikat, selamat pagi dan selamat datang di Amerika. Sesi ini didedikasikan kepada konsep mendasarkan ekonomi kreatif dalam tradisi. Dan saya sangat senang bisa berbagi panggung virtual dengan Cilau Valadez, seniman Amerika Meksiko yang memasyarakatkan seni asli Huichol, Renny manurung, penenun kain tenun Batak Ulos dan pendiri Dame Ulos, Lila Imeldasari, desainer Lemari Lila, dan Moderator kita Puthut Ardianto, dosen Universitas Muhammadiyah di Yogyakarta dan pendiri Lemos Pires. Nilai-nilai seni tradisional bisa semakin penting sekarang di masa COVID-19 waktu kita menghadapi tantangan yang belum pernah kita hadapi sebelumnya. Ya. Di sisi lain, saya pikir kesenian dan kerajinan tangan tradisional juga berfungsi sebagai pengingat bahwa nenek moyang kita menghadapi tantangan serupa dan bahwa kita tidak menghadapi tantangan ini sendirian. Jadi saya ingin mengucapkan terima kasih kepada semua panelis, khususnya kepada penerima hibah Kedutaan Besar AS Meet the Makers Indonesia. Meet the Makers Indonesia memungkinkan acara ini dengan advokasi dan jaringan seniman mereka. Dan saya berharap bahwa komitmen dan keterlibatan aktif Anda dalam masyarakat akan membantu dan menyiapkan komunitas seni di Indonesia dan di Amerika untuk mengatasi tantangan tersebut. Terima kasih.
Thank you, Palio, for the opening remarks. And now, to start today's event and today's discussion, I would like to invite our moderator for this morning, Mas Puthut Ardianto. Please take it away.
All right, thank you very much, Mas Anton, for the introduction as well. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Ad America TV program entitled Grounding Creative Economy and Traditions. This program is conducted by Ad America and its collaborating organizations, Tracing Parents Foundations, promoting textile studies and supporting indigenous scholarship, AFADA, the Asian Handicraft Promotions and Development Associations, Indonesian Heritage Society, and of course, Meet the Makers. So Meet the Makers is a collective of artisans, artists, culture advocates with a desire to support, promote, and nurture Indonesian handmade craft traditions. My name is Puthut Ardianto, and I'm a lecturer at Universitas Muhammadiyah Jakarta, as well as Jumputan, Artisan, and Appropriation. I'm very excited to be at America virtually. I have been there actually several times, and of course to be among these great, amazing speakers with their stories. I would also like to say hi to everyone who is currently watching this program from so many different social media platforms that Ad America has: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and of course, everyone here in Zoom. And my dear students and colleagues from American Corner MJ, So hi everybody. I know that you're now doing the cross post, yeah. Yeah, and I can't wait to start the sessions. I don't want to steal their performance. Basically, later each speaker will have 15 minutes to share their stories. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to drop them on our social media comment column. But before that, let me introduce these three amazing speakers for all of you. We have the first one is Cilau Valadez, an American Mexican artist promoting Huichol art. I hope I don't make a mistake in pronouncing that. Yeah, Huichol. Is that correct, Cilau?
It's Huichol.
Oh, Huichol. Sorry, Huichol.
It's okay. It's okay.
Good morning. So Cilau Valadez is the son of renowned Huichol yarn painter Mariano Valadez and the U.S. anthropologist Suzanne Valadez. He has done over 90 exhibits in North America, over 30 exhibits in Europe, and 5 in Asia. And he's a recognized traditional Wixárika yarn painter and travels the world exhibiting, lecturing, and demonstrating the Huichol art and yarn painting. And his work has been featured at the United Nations, at the Museum of International Folk Art, and at events sponsored by National Geographic, Mexico, Riviera, Nayarit, and universities in the United States and across the globe. So it's amazing to meet you here, Cilau. And the second speaker, we have Mbak Renny Manurung. Good morning, Mbak Renny.
Good morning.
All right. Mbak Renny is a Batak Toba handloom weaver from the village of Banjar Nahor Tarutung, North Tapanuli on North Sumatra. The story is very interesting because Renny's schooling was interrupted in 2012 when her parents' finances dwindled as a result of the decline in sales of Ulos. So for your information, Ulos is a sort of cloth, Batak traditional handloom woven cloth. And Mbak Renny has been studying the problem and then realized that there weren't that many interests in their cloth because they chose to make the older, traditional, and more intricate cloths. And then soon the market was flooded with the machine-made creating ulos, so that becomes a problem. And then she met the anthropologist Sandra Nissen, who then later documented in great details of Ulos weaving traditions in her book, Legacy of Cloth. And Mbak Renny has met with Sandra Nissen. She has revitalized several traditional designs and some that have not been made in over 200 years. Amazing. That is a very amazing story, Mbak Renny. And this is the last speaker. Last but not least, we have Mbak Lila Imeldasari. Good morning, Mbak Lila.
Hello. Good morning.
We are actually in the same town, right? We are in Yogyakarta, but we're meeting here virtually. Well, ladies and gentlemen, Mbak Lila is a Yogyakarta-based designer, passionate about traditional fabric and inspired by handmade textiles of Indonesia. The mix and match between minimal and traditional patterns describes her signature style. She draws from vintage, classic, and traditional design. Her clothing line is Lemari Lila. So without further ado, let's hear their stories. We will start from Cilau. The screen is yours, Cilau.
Kiaku Setehayutua. That's the Wixárika language. It's greeting everyone. In Español, ¿cómo están todos? How are you all, guys? I feel very honored to be part of your conference and very happy to share the lifestyle tradition and the different worlds that I've been very privileged to be able to live. As you mentioned, I come from a very diverse background. My father, it's a Wixárika yarn painting artist. That's the correct name of our tradition. It's very difficult to pronounce it, but we're known in the world as Huichol. It's spelled Huichhol. And
The tradition of the Huichol people, it's one of the only ones that were never influenced or conquered by the Spaniards. So even though we're in Mexico, we don't speak Spanish as a first language. In my case, it was a challenge to be with the tradition because, you know, the first thing is the lifestyle is very different. We're located on central west of Mexico. So first, we had to learn how to navigate among this tradition. Second of all, I had to learn how to navigate in Mexico. But eventually, since my mother is American, I was born in the United States, but I lived in Mexico for my early years, and eventually I went into the U.S. To learn English. I've been very privileged to know the different languages, and it was very important for me to learn English because my father's market was mainly in English-speaking countries such as the United States, Canada, England. So it was very difficult for him to explain his work. He always had to have someone sell his work. So I kind of noticed that at a very young stage. I didn't realize I was going to become an artist though. I did my first yarn painting when I was 9 years old. So eventually I became a yarn painting artist at the age of 18. And ever since then, since 2006, I've been dedicated myself as a full-time artist. So I took the right choice to go into go back into the US, finish high school. And I did very good during school, but in life, it was the best choice because to be multilingual, it really opens up different doors. For me, it was like the key to be able to navigate in the world and actually be able to share the beautiful tradition that I'm part of. Obviously, I come from the practice of my father, but at the same time, I also have the knowledge from an anthropological point of view because my mother, she's been documenting the tradition for the last 40 years now. She actually was nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize last year. And, you know, it's due to the fact that she's been dedicating her whole life to our tradition and documentation. So I got both of the best, you know, because from one side is the academic side and the other one is the actual practice from the tradition. So I can understand the different points of view and actually be able to become the bridge so people can understand it, because explaining it from my father's words is very difficult. So once you actually, yeah.
It's such a very interesting acculturations in your family, Cilau. I think you also have your film and your PowerPoint. Do you want to share it with us, Cilau?
I think someone was gonna be able to put it online. I wasn't. I don't know if someone. Let me see. I think it was Kareem or. But there was a PowerPoint presentation in some videos that Karima, I think, was the one that was gonna put it on. But the PowerPoint presentation has good images, kind of shows you like where we're at in the map.
Perfect.
Let me see. Yeah, so that's where we're at. You know, the yarn paintings is a technique where we use a plywood base, and in between there's a layer of beeswax and pine resin, and the yarn is pushing into the beeswax little by little, filling up the entire space. So what you see on the screen is actually one of the pieces of my yarn paintings, but that one in particularly is not depicting a traditional story. It has like some traditional symbols, but I think it's a very good way to adapt the traditional technique and tell the story of someone else without actually using our symbols and knowledge, you know, because a lot of the times people want to buy traditional art forms, but not necessarily the stories. So in this case, that piece that is being shown there, it was done for a marriage, but it's telling the story of someone that lives in Alaska. You may go ahead and do the next slide, please. Let me see. There you go. So right there, it shows you in the map where we are. Nayarit is where my workshop is located and where most of our artists work. And you know, Nayarit, it's it's not necessarily very popular in the Mexican map, but Nayarit, the word comes from a prophet that was the prophet that saved us from the conquest of Mexico. So he relocated our people. Our people used to be from the coast, the mountains, all the way to the desert. It covered 5 different states, but as the settlers came into Mexico, our people have to relocate into the mountains. And it was due to the fact of Nayeri was the prophet that relocated ourselves, but also fought the Spaniards so we couldn't be conquered. And by doing that, it's how we were able to keep our art techniques, our tradition, our language, spiritual practice. So it's very important that I show where we come from, but also the fact that Nayarit doesn't have a Spanish name. You may go into the next slide if you wish. That's the figure of Nayeri. That's our prophet. It's very important to reflect the essence of this land, because it's what this land speaks through our art. The stories that are put into the yarn paintings in a traditional way are the songs of our medicine people known as maracames, and they're also physical evidence of our prayers. Whenever we create these art pieces, it's a way for us to connect with gods, goddesses, with the divine essence, but at the same time, it's a way for us to keep our stories alive. You can go ahead into the next slide, please. This kind of depicts like the origin of our art. It reflects our dreams, our visions, our ceremonial lifestyle, but we are people that travel within not just the physical dimension that we live on, but we also travel through the spiritual dimension, through the dreams, through different realms. So the origin of the art is actually very, very sacred. It's not necessarily a religion, but it's definitely filled with faith. You know, we honor the earth, we honor the sun, we honor nature, our harvest. So everything is honoring the earth that allows us to be able to survive, where we harvest our meals, the corn, the amaranth, and different native seeds that are still conserved in Mexico. You can go ahead into the next slide. Right here, I think it's very important for people to understand the actual spiritual practice. This is all the offerings, which at the very bottom, you can see the huevillas, which represent the different drawings that before they used to done with yarn. A lot of the times people still do it with yarn, but nowadays a lot of people also draw it out. You can see that there's the antlers of the deer, the horns of the bull, and it's the offerings that are given to the gods and goddesses to fertilize the soil and make it fertile, but at the same time call the rains so they can provide the source of food for the fields, because our tradition fully depends on the rain, and it's actually on nature in order to be able to harvest our foods. You may go ahead into the next one, please. This is the spiritual practice. It's not just men that do it, it's men and women that have very important roles. The face paint that you can see in the people in this picture represents like the passport into the spiritual realm. It's done with a straw, and also the paint comes from a root of a plant that is actually scraped into a flint stone, and then it's mixed with water and it turns into this beautiful paint. It's 100% organic and it's done completely freehand. But this picture depicts the actual practice of over thousands of years old tradition that is being able to survive through generations. Can go ahead into the next one, please. So this is what I master myself. You know, I look at these works and I don't even believe I make them. You know, it's a piece like the one I'm holding right there. It took me 1,980 hours. So it's got 4,208 meters of yarn. And this is the physical evidence of like close to 1,000 hours of prayers. You know, this is completely traditional. It's a piece that starts the story from the ocean and it goes through the whole journey all the way to the place where the sun was born. It has some of the most important elements, such as the corn, the mother corn known as Tatei Niwetzika. It's believed that the corn in our tradition represents uh, the manifestation of Mother Earth, and the sun represents the essence of the male. You know, at the same time, these two provide duality and allow life to continue on this particular side of the earth. So every single thing, such as the deer, the eagle, the ocean, the mountains, everything in this painting actually has a symbolism on it. You know, I can, on a piece like this one, I can spend for sure, you know, a whole day just talking about this particular one. So this one really depicts kind of like the traditional motives. You know, obviously the style that I'm using is my own style, but the stories and the symbols are the same stories that have been passed down through generations. Go ahead into the next one, please. This piece, it's kind of mixing like the tradition, but at the same time, most of my work is done by commission. Luckily, you know, I have a waiting list of commissions, but this piece was done for a marriage. It was a 40th year anniversary piece. So it's kind of mixing in the story of the people that commissioned these works and turning it into a traditional story by having the elements such as the flowers there represent the kieri. It's a very important medicinal flower in our tradition. It has the 24-hour cycle of the day, but everything is by couples. You know, it's all males and females, the sun, the moon, the fire, the water, the male flower, the female flower. So everything is by couples. So that's just to give you an idea of how the yarn paintings look like. A piece like that one that is 70 centimeters in diameter is the work of 2.5 months. May I go ahead into the next one, please? One of the things that I've been doing, you know, I specialize in the yarn paintings, but not just as an artist. I think it's very important for us as young people to be the inspiration of new artists. In this case, Paritzika represents one of the best artists that our workshop has developed. But what you see in this image is completely telling you and showing you the tradition that we're part of. May go ahead into the next one, please. Adapting the tradition into the modern lifestyle. This is one of the ways how I'm working on it. Obviously the jewelry that you see on that piece is jewelry from the Huichol people. The drawing that you see in the shirt is actually one of my yarn paintings. Prints, and the hat actually has embedded some beads into it. So, you know, I think it's very important that we don't try to just sell the works of art for collectors. You know, I think it's very important that we have to adapt to a market, because obviously a painting that takes 60 hours to manifest is not going to be inexpensive, especially when it's made by a master. So in this case, the other option that we're adjusting ourselves to be able to impact a bigger market, it's through the shirts, the prints, and also creating these type of apparels and fashion works. May I go into the next one?
Cilau, we still have 4 minutes left. Hi, Cilau.
Yeah. It's
okay.
It's very important that I always tell people, you know, it doesn't matter. Traditionally, our canvas was plywood or a piece of wood, a wooden sculpture, a gourd. But nowadays, I think that an artist doesn't have any limitations. So now we're using canvas such as these shoes that are shown there. You know, it has traditional work on it, but the shoe itself is not necessarily traditional. So it's not necessarily limiting yourself to just create what you were taught to do. Obviously, we practice the tradition and we also create traditional pieces, but we have to adapt to a market. And you know, it's 2020, so we have to find our ways to sell the work to the current market. So these vans reflect a great way for us to not just show art, but also be able to wear the art. Go ahead into the next one. You know, it's this is just like the last slide, but there's a lot of information, you know, that we can still provide. I think that this picture is it's a very good example of how anything can be used as a canvas. The piece behind me is actually a Volkswagen, and the Volkswagen was covered on beads. It was a 3-year project that I didn't create myself, but when I had the privilege and honor to have an exhibit in Germany, that particular piece was part of my show, an exhibit. So it's not just that you will find a whole Volkswagen covered on beads. You know, the fact that it's a Volkswagen doesn't mean that it doesn't have a traditional story. You know, it took an entire family of like 12 people, I believe, to do the entire Volkswagen.
Yes, it's amazing that you have that beautiful canvas, not only the real canvas, but like on the Volkswagen set. I think we still have one more video from Cilau, yeah? Can we have the video?
Yeah, it's very important because I can talk about it and people don't necessarily understand how that work is made.
Yo soy ahorita el responsable en la familia de mantener esta tradición viva entre nosotros, ¿no? Y yo apenas, siempre le digo a la gente, ¿no? Apenas comienzo a caminar porque, pues, el legado que mi padre me está dejando, pues, es un legado de más de 40 años. Ya ellos me empiezan a decir que, por ejemplo, cuando se hacían los collares de Shakira, en vez de usar toda esta Shakira o cuentas, pues hacía uso de semillas, conchas, piedritas. A veces tardaban mucho tiempo pues para igualar, ¿no?, la simetría de cada perla. Y en el caso de las pinturas de estambre, pues era arte plumario. Vamos a decir, dividíamos todas estas fibras y esto es lo que se iba adheriendo en lo que pues ahora ya son las pinturas de estambre. Fue un artista que se llama Ramón Medina, que a él se le da el crédito como el pionero de las pinturas de estambre. Viene siendo uno de los maestros que fue de Tutuquila, que viene siendo el maestro de mi padre. Ya mi padre pues viene siendo de tercera generación y yo soy cuarta generación, y haciendo uso de los materiales que pues me pasaron a mí. Aunque pues tengo la curiosidad de algún día de realizar una pintura pues en realidad tradicional, ¿no?, que viene siendo con las plumas en vez de usar el estambre. Una de las cosas que he aprendido estando muy enlazado a la cultura wixárika pues es la apreciación que tenemos hacia la tierra, hacia el sol, hacia el viento, hacia el agua, hacia todos esos elementos de los cuales dependemos para vivir en armonía. Pero en la actualidad, navegando entre el mundo, pues uno se da cuenta que hemos perdido esa noción y en vez de armonizarnos con la naturaleza, pues estamos alterándola. Entonces todos mis rezos pues se van para que balanceen ese tipo de fuerza, ¿no? Y al final de cuentas pues todas nuestras obras están enlazadas a esa cosmología, ¿no? A valorar lo que viene siendo la tierra y lo que nos da la vida. Esto no es trabajo. Cada obra que realizamos representa una ofrenda. Cuando estamos elaborando estas obras, pues estamos bien dedicados a la pieza y bien enfocados. Y conforme la vamos elaborando, pues se va rezando. O sea, es un tipo de purificación, porque al dejar tú tu ofrenda, pues estás dejando una evidencia de que estuviste conectado con el Creador y estás agradeciendo lo que el Creador te está dejando manifestar en el mundo físico, que nosotros manifestamos como arte.
So that gives you a little bit of an idea.
Yeah, Cilau. So from the video, we can see how beautiful you put so much thought in there. Like while you were doing it, you're also praying, and all of those things were put together and to form a very beautiful art. Amazing. Cilau, do you still have anything to say before we have the second speaker?
Well, I just want to be very thankful for the invitation, for the attention, and know that this is just the beginning, and I'm going to be meeting you guys in Indonesia next year for sure.
Yes, perfect. Thank you very much, Cilau. We'll still have later for the Q&A. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we will have the second speaker. We will have from Mbak Renny. Mbak Renny, the screen is yours.
Oke, terima kasih Mas Puthut. Oke, sebelum saya mulai presentasi, saya ingin mengucapkan terima kasihku untuk America dan MTM, dan juga untuk seluruh partisipan. Selamat pagi. Dan sebelum saya mau share video, saya mau cerita sedikit. Video ini tentang perjalanan saya dengan seorang antropolog from Belanda, namanya Sander Nielsen, dan dia akan menerangkan bagaimana proses kerjasama kolaborasi kalian berdua, dan juga ada perjalanan saya bersama teman-teman artisan, bagaimana dia merubah kehidupannya melalui konsep yang kita bangun, itu revitalisasi. Mungkin bisa izin share untuk silakan videonya.
So Ms. Renny is going to share us a story of her meeting Sandra Ness and everybody.
The Toba Batak people of North Sumatra live around Lake Toba, a crater lake with UNESCO's status as geopark. Their weaving tradition, particularly the textile called Ulos, made on backstrap loom, is one of the oldest weaving traditions in the Indonesian archipelago. But the tradition is now in sharp decline.
It became clear to me when I went back to Indonesia every time again, the Batak tradition of weaving is in decline.
Kira 30 yang lalu, saya datang ke sini ke Ardianto. Situ saya belajar tenun dari satu opusiho namanya. Segala macam membuat kain. Itu saya belajar dari opusiho. Dan saya bikin foto-foto. Saya datang ke sini, saya lihat bahwa ulos lama sudah mau habis di sini. Tengah dong halak be nama tong di sini. So, jadi saya pikir hasil pekerjaan saya jangan hanya ke museum di Barat, lebih baik juga sama orang Batak di sini. Sebab ini kan pusaka Batak, pusaka Ulos. Ini budaya yang sudah tua hian. Ya, 4.000 tahun ini. Proyek saya sekarang, saya sedang kerjakan itu, bernama Pulang Kampung. Saya mengagumi keindahan hasil karya dari nenek Anda. Buku ini Kak tentang Ulos Batak.
Terima kasih.
Terima kasih. Sebab saya boleh taruh foto ini di dalam.
Iya, kami juga bilang terima kasih sama Ibu karena bisa kami melihat lagi 24 tahun yang lalu.
Kemarin saya coba share ke mereka, kasih pemahaman lagi bagaimana kembali ke ulos-ulos lama tersebut. Kalau penenun yang lain terlalu banyak memodifikasi, akan hilang makna dari ulos tersebut. Filosofinya pasti hilang. Kebanyakan penenun di daerah kita itu lebih menenun permintaan pasar. Jadi mereka tidak lagi menenun yang konsepnya ulos klasik.
Ini kan dari Sumatra. Ini dari Sumatra kan. Harus kembali ke sini.
Dan belum tidak sama
Nggak bisa. Tidak bisa.
Jadi sana dimana diputus?
Bukan diputus. Ini kan berlanjut.
Oh,
Ya, dipakai lagi seperti
Renny Manurung is a young, creative and prize-winning Toba Batak weaver from the Silindung Valley. Since meeting anthropologist Sandra Nissen, who has documented the Batak weaving tradition for over 30 years, Renny has been reviving traditional designs.
Ini kemarin foto yang Nomor kirim, ini hasilnya. Kira-kira gimana Nomor?
Ya, saya melihat sangat rapi ini dan juga cantik.
Ntar dari sini aja Kak Dum. Boleh kan? Bisa kan? Jadi nggak usah pakai pinggir lagi, langsung ini mah. Jadi kita repro yang lama kan?
She works with an excellent team of weavers and derives inspiration from Sandra's book, Legacy in Cloud, Batak Textiles of Indonesia.
Ini dia Sandra ya, via chat beliau, dia mengirimkan foto-foto. Inilah Renny ulosmu yang dulu. Sandra bilang, ini asal usul bunga ros masuk ke daerah Sumatera. Bunga ros kelihatan ya? Ya, jadi namanya ulos sirara dan bunga ros nama simata. Kendala yang saya hadapi selama menenun atau merevitalisasi ulos itu, satu adalah ketika katanya sarjana pulang kampung menenun. Jadi tahun 2014 itu saya mengalami kesulitan ekonomi dari orang tua saya tentang menjual ulos tersebut karena motifnya sudah pasaran. Alhasil saya tahun 2014 kembali ke Tarutung. Bayangin 20-30 tahun ke depan hilang. Dan kalau kita generasi pemuda tidak lagi ikut melestarikan, siapa lagi?
Renny menunjukkan ada motif yang sebenarnya motif lama, tapi karena belum pernah saya bikin, motifnya kembali dibuat ulang. Dan karena kebetulan motif yang ditunjukkan ini sebenarnya tingkat pengerjaannya lumayan sulit juga. Waktu yang dibutuhkan lumayan lama, paling minim itu 3 minggu dan paling lamanya itu ada 1 bulan. Dari sisi ekonomis jauh lebih baik sekarang jika dibandingkan dengan dulu. Setelah kita ada ini diskusi dengan Renny, kita jadi lebih tahu dengan motif-motif ulos yang dari dulu.
She knows that the weaving tradition can only be maintained if the weavers receive sufficient support.
Baik.
Very interesting, Mbak Renny.
Jadi itu kisah perjalanan saya di video itu, ada kesaksian dari penenun di Ulos juga, itu namanya Kaduma. Dia salah satu yang menenun di belakang saya ini nih. Yang ada di belakang saya. Yes. Jadi dia pembuatnya dan udah pewarna alam seperti itu. Jadi saya mau lanjut ke sesi presentasi saya. Saya mau share screen. Oke. Ya. Nah, saya akan cerita sedikit tentang ulos dalam siklus kehidupan siklus kehidupan manusia ya, khususnya orang Batak. Jadi sebenarnya ada 5 suku di Batak itu. Di Sumatera Utara ada Simalungun, ada Karo, ada Batak Toba, ada Mandailing juga seperti itu. Dan saya akan bahas khusus di area saya yaitu Batak Toba seperti itu. Namun ada kemiripan, tapi ada juga ada kemiripan jenis tapi beda fungsi setiap daerah seperti itu. Saya akan bicara sedikit apa yang kita lakukan di Dame Ulos dari siklus ini. Jadi sebelum lahir ke bumi, 7 bulan usia kandungan itu sudah diberikan ulos. Tujuannya supaya anak yang mau lahir itu diberi kesehatan. Jadi namanya ulos tondi seperti itu. Dan uniknya di orang Batak itu yang memberikan ulos itu adalah pihak dari orang tua si perempuan, bukan dari pihak laki-laki. Kalau di sini dipakai ada ulos yang warna merah, ini namanya ulos ragi hidup. Ragi hidup itu adalah tondi ya, hidup seperti itu. Kemudian ada foto di sampingnya, ini acara untuk baptis atau pemberian nama seperti itu. Di sini terlihat orang tua perempuan, ada ibu dan ayahnya, ini memberikan ulos mengirim kepada cucunya seperti itu, supaya ada baby carrier, paropa namanya ya, paropa atau gendongan seperti itu, dan ini dikasih ulosnya. Dan tujuannya juga supaya nanti dia kelak punya langsung adik. Ya, dia langsung beriringan seperti itu. Kemudian the next, ini ada saya ambil foto almarhum papa saya dan mama saya mengasih memberikan ini di wedding ceremony. Kakak saya tuh yang ini duduk dikasih juga kebesannya dalam ritual Batak, pesan pun dapat ulos gitu. Jadi memang keluarga perempuan itu sangat erat kaitannya seperti itu. Tujuannya apa? Supaya mereka bisa mengiring-iringi, bisa mengajari anak perempuan mereka seperti itu. Kemudian di foto terakhir di samping itu papa saya sudah menghadap ke yang atas. Itu papa saya sudah menerima ulos dari paman. Namanya ulos saput. Jadi mulai sebelum lahir ke bumi bahkan sampai meninggal, ulos itu sangat dibutuhkan dalam adat istiadat. Cuman memang ulos itu bukan hanya untuk adat istiadat. Dulu sudah dipakai sebagai clothing, sebagai pakaian sehari-hari, sebagai ikat kepala, sebagai selendang yang saya pakai sekarang. Dan itu tidak terlepas seperti itu. Nah, inilah yang kita lakukan bersama artisan-artisan di Damai Ulos untuk mengembalikan motif-motif yang dipakai seperti itu. Karena sekarang itu motif-motifnya sudah diproduksi pakai ATBM, pakai mesin, pakai printing, jadi tidak dapat lagi nilai filosofisnya. Dan kebanyakan semenjak tahun 2000-an itu penenun beralih profesi menjadi penenun sesuai permintaan pasar. Ada yang menjadi bertani, ada yang nggak meneruskan ilmunya kepada anak cucunya, jadi warisan ilmunya pun hilang. Lama-kelamaan bahkan pemuda tidak mengenal lagi ulos, tidak tahu bagaimana belajarnya, karena dulu harga tenun sangat murah dan tidak dihargai seperti itu. Terus ini slide ini Kak Duma tadi yang bicara di video, dan semenjak dia ketemu dengan Sandra sudah datang ke tempatnya, dia sering baca buku Legacy in Cloth, dan ulos kain yang ada di sini di foto ini itu warna merah dan yang di belakang saya warna birunya adalah revitalisasinya. Jadi ulos-ulos yang udah hilang kita produksi kembali dengan warna alam seperti itu. Dengan pasti motifnya itu nggak ada lagi sebenarnya, hanya ada di dokumentasi di buku Legacy in Cloth seperti itu. Dan yang foto bawah ini ibu ini namanya Ibu Mega, dia penenun untuk bahan baju, dress seperti itu, dia hanya mengikuti permintaan pasar. Tetapi semenjak kita diskusi dan saya kasih arahan bagaimana supaya ekonomi dia itu lebih naik, lebih up seperti itu, dan dia mau dan mencoba belajar tentang teknik jugia atau supplementary warp namanya seperti itu. Dan 2 tahun belakangan ini kita bersama tim-tim artisan itu sudah back to nature ya, jadi sudah pakai pewarna alam. Tujuannya apa? Supaya kain kita itu harganya range-nya lebih besar. Jadi ekonomi mereka benar-benar tumbuh. Karena dulu kata mereka hanya dapat mereka dulu kan jualnya sama tengkulak ya. Kata-kata kasarnya seperti itu, dan hanya dapat 400.000 seminggu seperti itu. Padahal mereka itu tulang punggung keluarga dan itu nggak cukup. Nah, atas dasar Legacy in Cloth dan pewarna alam, dan mereka mau kembali untuk menenun motif yang lama walaupun itu susah, nggak butuh waktu yang cepat, dan puji syukur mereka sekarang ini menjadi pelopor di setiap daerah masing-masing. Karena apa? Bahkan mereka punya penghasilan 6-8 juta per bulan. Itu sangat luar biasa signifikan perubahannya. Dan kita sering diundang juga sama beberapa badan lembaga yang lain untuk motivator ke penenun lain, karena di sini ada kurang lebih 5.000 penenun tersebar di sini, dan memang masih banyak menenun, tapi bukan menenun yang asli wujudnya ulos, bukan seperti itu lagi di sini, seperti itu. Dan semoga memang ke depan harapan saya penenun-penenun di sekitaran sini, bukan hanya di Tarutung ya, di Samosir, di Karo, di Tapsel segala macam, ayo kembali untuk menenun yang tradisional, alatnya seperti ini, gedogan, kemudian dengan sesuai filosofinya seperti itu, supaya menjaga warisan tradisi. Nah, saya nggak akan banyak cerita. Kalau untuk koleksi nanti itu bisa ada di Instagram saya @dameulos, ada juga Facebook saya, ada kontak email saya, alamat saya di Jalan Gereja HKP Damai. Damai itu artinya damai peace seperti itu. Dan hanya sekian singkat penjelasan dari saya dan presentasi saya. Sekian, dan saya kembalikan ke Mas Puthut. Terima kasih Mas.
Thank you very much, Mbak Renny, for a very interesting and inspiring story. So, ladies and gentlemen, let me just summarize what Mbak Renny was saying earlier. So, basically, in Ulos was born since the human wasn't born yet. So, like Mbak Renny was mentioning, Ulos Tondi was given to a pregnancy when the pregnancy reached to 7th month. Yeah. And the one who was giving this was from the women's side, yeah. And then after the giving of the birth, and then the baby was given another ulos, right? So the purpose of giving this ulos is so then this baby, newly born baby, can have new sibling very soon. And then the third part is when the wedding ceremony. Normally the one who gave the ulas is the in-laws, yeah. So this one was given to the parents of the groom so that the parents of the groom can teach the women, right? So, and then the last one is for the death, right? So humans life cycle always wear ulos in Batak gitu. And then in Damai Ulos, the name is Damai Ulos, which means peace. Before the revitalizations that was done by Mbak Renny and Ibu Sandra, the artisans in there only receive around 400,000 a month, which is not enough for them. And then Mbak Renny came there and explained to them, taught to them how to do the revitalizations, make the old motifs and use the natural dyes. And nowadays, each of the artisans can earn up to 6 to 8 millions a month. Such a very wonderful increase, yeah. So this is very interesting, Mbak Renny. I was like very curious why your inspirations comes from the traditions. Like you bring up all the old motifs, right? You want to give it back to the world now. What is actually your inspirations to focus this? Inspirasinya Mbak Renny, apa sih Mbak?
Kalau inspirasi saya yang pertama adalah saya ingin ulos itu masuk ke warisan budaya di dunia. Itu yang pertama. Terus yang kedua, saya ingin mengajak pemuda, ayo dong kalian jangan malu memakai ulos. Tapi caranya gimana? Saya harus pulang kampung, kasih edukasi dan mengembalikan yang lama, seperti itu.
Very interesting, yeah. So the first inspiration was because you want to see the existence of ulos in the world heritage, yes. Maybe someday, yeah. And then also you want to also encourage the young people to be proud of wearing ulos, because as I understood from your explanation, ulos was normally made only for the old, right? Hanya dipakai orang-orang tua. Yeah. And what happens nowadays, Mbak?
Kalau yang terjadi sekarang semenjak kita udah revitalisasi, banyak banget sih pemuda-pemuda yang udah mencoba memakai ulos kembali, ada yang kombinasi dengan kain, itu sebagai inovasi seperti itu. Dan saya rasa 17 Oktober kemarin itu hari ulos, banyak banget antusiasme untuk kita kemarin ada perayaan di virtual, itu keren banget.
Okay, very interesting, yeah. Right, Pak Renny. And also you mentioned about the Dame Ulos. So Dame is from the word peace, yeah?
Yeah.
Do you have any specific reasons? Yeah.
Okay.
Apa namanya Dame?
So the first, kakak aku namanya Dame.
I see.
Okay. Terus the second is jalan masuk ke sini ada sebuah gereja itu misionaris gereja tertua pertama di tanah Batak, namanya Gereja Dame. At least harus dari situ, dan saya rasa itu nama yang terberkati, itu alasannya.
And also it means peace for you, yeah? Peace, yeah. So wearing ulos can make peace. Thank you very much. But Renny, it's very interesting talking to you and hear your stories. We still have one more speaker. We will continue later in the Q&A, Mbak Renny, so please still stay there. Now, ladies and gentlemen, after listening to Cilau's stories and also his art, and Mbak Renny's stories, very inspiring stories, and now this is the last but not least speakers. Please welcome Mbak Lila Imeldasari. Mbak Lila, the screen is yours.
Halo, saya Lila dari Yogyakarta. Mungkin kalau mau jelas apa yang saya lakukan sekarang bisa dilihat video setelah ini, tapi yang saya lakukan adalah saya selalu ingin berjalan beriringan dengan tradisi yang sudah ada dan apa yang bisa saya lakukan untuk mengajak semua termasuk anak muda atau orang tua masih memakai batik dan tenun yang khususnya ada di Yogyakarta dengan mereka memperhatikan tradisi dan cara membuat yang seperti Mbak Renny tadi bahwa membuat sebuah kain tradisional itu ada prosesnya. Jadi tidak hanya hasil jadi atau motifnya saja itu. Mungkin bisa diputar videonya untuk melihat apa yang saya lakukan. Terima kasih.
Hello, my name is Lila Imedazari. I'm a fashion designer from Yogyakarta, Indonesia. I have a brand named Lemari Lila, or in English called Lila's Closet. Every piece of Indonesian traditional textile inspires me, especially Javanese textiles, both traditional hand block printed batik, or we call it batik cap, and hand woven, mostly used for my designs. When I was young, I often saw my grandmother and my mother wore our traditional clothing on a daily basis, and since we Asian, we already accustomed to seeing many ethnic patterns and symbols, such as animal, the wave patterns, the sky motif, and so much more. And it's become a part of me. So yes, it's safe to say that I was heavily inspired by my childhood memories and our daily lives in the usage of traditional Indonesian clothes like kebaya, kain, and also the pattern and fabric in my designs. Not to mention our pattern and fabrics have their own philosophy and meaning, that they are connected with our daily lives. For example, in Java, we know the parang pattern, the symbol of royalty and power. In a way, these patterns and symbols are no different than a painting. It's an art, but it also tells so much about our culture, with each line made, or as we say, a story is told, history recorded. And that, I think, what makes our traditional pattern and fabric so special and deserve to be preserved. I believe the main reason that Lemari Lila is as big as it is today is because of our rather unique approach in mixing between Indonesian traditional textiles with the modern ones. As our brand's motto says, traditional meets modern clothing. I want Indonesian women to remember their heritage while also walking along hand in hand with modernization. We all know that changes will always happen, but that doesn't mean that we should forget our roots and our identity. In Lemari Lila, I want to make sure that you are a part of both the past and the future and still look and feel good in it. Another reason why people love Lemari Lila, I think, is because we create our own authentic patterns and textiles. For example, I have the icon of Lemari Lila called Bo Jum. Bo is a mother in Javanese language. Jum is a Javanese name from Jumium. I make the kebaya, the traditional woman top, and also the pattern of the woman icon, Bo Jum. There is a reason why we make our own pattern. The classic patterns such as parang and truntum have their own stories and history, meaning we cannot really have the free will to modify them, for it will alter their philosophy and meaning. Beside Bo Jum pattern, I also have my own pattern called Pak No, is a husband of Bo Jum, Pak Sudarno, and then their clothes called Kebaya Surjan, also rooster and hen. It's a symbol of Indonesian traditional lifestyle. Beside batik, I also design my own pattern for handwoven. I think we have to move forward, but still preserving the traditional way in the name of creativity. I think the Indonesian creative economy will only grow if the people who are involved, from the producers to the local crafters, insist on maintaining the preservation and the availability of our local goods. with using our own local products or traditional fabrics or making craft works all produced domestically, we in a way are helping this country's economic growth. For example, as a designer who makes my own batik, if people keep on buying my products, that means we're automatically helping the batik makers, the tailors in keeping their jobs. It all started when several Indonesians who live in America came to visit our store. They bought our products and brought them back to America, which to our surprise, we received quite a warm feedback from them. Also, the demand where the clothes have to be color fading proof, when in reality, handmade fabric, color fading is a natural process from natural fabric dye. So it's impossible for us to maintain the fabric color consistency when it's prone to fading for like 3 until 5%. And if we're to use synthetic dyes, they only allow a small percentage of it. My message for the young designer, especially when you using traditional fabric and textile in your design, we have to keep on learning. Don't be afraid to innovate or try something new. Be brave, be creative. Don't forget to preserve our local culture, learning about the history, the background, but at the same time, don't be afraid to innovate.
Very interesting, Mbak Lila. It's such a very interesting story because the way how you combine between the traditional and then you have your own pattern, yeah.
Yes.
I'm very curious with how did you come up with Mbok Jum and Pak No, Mbak?
Okay,
You wanna share a little bit? Yeah.
Ya, I will speak in bahasa Indonesia ya.
Sure.
Jadi sebenarnya saya dari dulu selalu tertarik dengan sosok perempuan Indonesia yang memakai sanggul dan kebaya untuk dijadikan satu ikon batik gitu. Apalah entah produknya apa ya. Kebetulan saya terus tertarik batik dan menggeluti batik. Saya juga suka duduk di Pasar Beringharjo, Jogja, cari-cari batik, lihat-lihat kehidupan di sana dan selalu melihat ibu-ibu tua di sana, buruh gendong itu selalu memakai kebaya dan kain. Walaupun saat ini udah nggak terlalu banyak. Mereka naik sepeda, membawa barang-barang, dan itu mereka tidak merasa kesulitan apapun dengan memakai baju itu. Dan itu buat saya adalah wanita hebat. Jadi Mbok Jum ini sangat perempuan sekali gitu, melambangkan perempuan gitu. Jadi saya hidupkan itu, saya kolaborasi dengan Rona Narendra, teman saya seniman. Dia menggambar karena gambar saya jelek, terus kita buat lempengan tembaganya untuk dijadikan batik cap gitu. Sebenarnya awal Mbok Jum itu adalah bentuk kebaya Kutu Baru ini yang saya namakan kebaya Mbok Jum. Tapi dari nama kebaya itu sendiri saya hidupkan sosok ini, ikon ini. Baru setelah itu muncul lagi ide-ide untuk membuat menjadi satu keluarga. Ada Pak No, ada anaknya, Margio, Margina, baju mereka gitu. Itu fungsinya hanya untuk mengenalkan bahwa batik itu nggak cuman, jadi saya lawannya Mbak Renny ya, maksudnya aku sedikit bandel gitu. Aku di Jogja itu banyak sekali filosofi yang kita harus penuhi seperti Ulos tadi ya. Motif ini tidak boleh dipakai oleh siapa, motif ini tidak boleh dipakai oleh siapa, dan saat saya harus memakai kain itu dan dipotong, buat saya itu adalah tanggung jawab moral. Saya ada satu kain utuh terus digunting-gunting jadi baju. Sedangkan saya bergerak di bidang fashion, saya juga menjual baju jadi gitu. Jadi gimana caranya, dan kreativitas di sini nggak berhenti di kepala, akhirnya saya membuatlah motif batik baru. Itu sih ide awalnya.
Yeah, so the idea of Mbak Lila making a new design or a new pattern of batik was actually came from, she used to sit down in front of Pasar Beringharjo. So Beringharjo is a traditional market in Yogyakarta. It's like the big market, the centralized market in Yogyakarta. So she was looking at some old women, like sellers in Beringharjo, wearing the kebaya. Kebaya is like the one that Mbak Lia is wearing at the moment. She has made it like more modern now. And then those who actually inspired her to create the kebaya and sorjan. And because she loves women, she loves strong women, so that's why she came up with the character of Mbok Jum and Pak No. But actually, Mbak Lila, Pak No and Mbok Jum, do they really exist? Mereka itu ada nggak sih, Mbak, sebenarnya?
Enggak sih.
Oke.
Tapi Pak No itu nama suami penjahitku. Jadi dan saya memilih nama itu sangat Jawa. Jadi saya tidak memasukkan selalu unsur bahasa Inggris di dalam produk saya. Ya, saya pilih nama yang sangat Jawa gitu.
Right. So Pak No and Mbok Jum, those two motifs among many motifs that she has created, were actually just imaginative characters.
Pasti imajinasinya berdasarkan pengamatan sekitar.
True. Yeah. Very interesting, Mbak Lila. So yeah, I was really like, wow, it's interesting. And the last one is actually, what about the roosters and hen?
Sorry?
Dari ayam jago dan ayam betina tadi.
Jadi gini, sebenarnya motif binatang unggas itu dari dulu sudah ada. Seperti atau ikan ya, tergantung dari mana ada pengaruh apa yang ada di situ. Seperti Cirebon, mereka membuatnya ikan, terus Indramayu juga ya. Terus unggas itu pasti menarik sekali untuk dijadikan motif batik gitu. Dan saya selalu melihat orang-orang Jawa yang karena saya tinggal di Jawa, jadi orang yang terdekat dengan saya adalah orang Jawa. Mereka itu ada satu prestis gengsi bapak-bapak itu kalau punya peliharaan ayam atau burung. Mau jabatannya apa, mau sekaya apa, mereka pasti punya peliharaan itu. Dan ayam itu identik dengan bapak-bapak ngumpul sore hari atau pagi hari merokok, terus minum kopi, teh, mereka duduk. Jadi ayam itu berempat tadi guyup, karena di Jawa itu ada istilah kamu mangan ramangan, penting ngumpul, guyup aja ya kayak itu.
Right. Okay, interesting. So the idea of making hen and also roosters as part of their Mbak Lila's design, I think also we can see from Cilau's design as well. So he also came up with hen, and some roosters. So because it's very identical with Javanese men. So in Javanese, if men have rooster, it's kind of like a pride. And then, they normally will gather late in the afternoon, just chill out and hang out and have a cup of coffee and smoking and showing off their roosters. So this is what has inspired Mbak Lila.
Dan very interesting. Itu yang mau bikin saya dari motif-motif yang sangat dekat. Saya juga ingin bahwa ini kain batik dan tenun. Dulu saya juga banyak pernah pakai ulos juga, karena ibu saya adalah orang Tapanuli Selatan, bapak saya orang Jogja. Terus, tapi saya waktu bikin itu hanya satu kali koleksi, banyak teman saya orang Batak bilang, Lila warna itu nggak boleh loh dipakai. Lila ini, aduh saya takut kan jadinya. Akhirnya saya itu, terus jadi saya rasa ini bisa dekat baik dari motif yang saya buat, dan batik ini akan menjadi sesuatu yang dekat dengan kita pemakainya gitu.
Okay, thank you very much, Mbak Lila. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have 3 speakers sharing their stories. Their videos are very interesting and inspiring. So now we will come to the Q&A session. So we already have some questions here. The first one is from Nista Sira. So it's from YouTube. The question is for Cilau. Cilau, where can I buy your work? Cilau. Sorry, Cilau, you're still muted.
Well, that makes me happy because due to the whole pandemia thing and epidemic, it was all of my shows were canceled this year, so it really hurt us, But the best way to contact me it's through Instagram. If you don't have Instagram, you can also contact me through Facebook. Just as what my name is Cilau Valadez, Valadez, just like my name.
Okay.
And that'll take you straight to my social media. I'm the only Cilau Valadez in the world.
Yeah.
And you know, it's so they can find me through that, and or my email. Another one is I think, is there any way we can write it? Because it's very difficult to spell.
Right.
So through social media or email.
Yeah, okay. So it can be found in social media, Cilau Valadez for Nitsa Sira. The next question is for Mbak Renny. Mbak Renny, apa penyebab kurangnya masyarakat Batak tertarik dalam memproduksi ulos tradisional? Lalu bagaimana milenial non-batik bisa terlibat dalam, milenial non-Batak bisa terlibat dalam menjaga kelestarian ulos, mengingat ini suatu tradisi Batak. Mbak Renny?
Oke. Jadi kenapa banyak yang kurang berminat? Itu alasannya yang pertama aku rasa ulos mereka tidak tahu filosofinya. Kalau seseorang tahu filosofinya itu pasti yang berminat. Jadi kurangnya mungkin edukasi yang pertama, seperti itu. Namun sekarang semenjak ada sosial media, saya rasa itu bebas edukasinya. Saya udah kasih kontak saya tadi, yang mau nanya tadi boleh, atau kontak Sandra juga di Facebooknya Sandra Nation juga boleh, via di Google juga boleh. Terus solusinya untuk milenial sekarang saya rasa untuk lebih mencintai ulos, nggak dipaksakan harus misalnya membeli kain yang mahal atau beli di kain kita, enggak sih. Yang penting apa yang ada di rumahnya dulu sekarang. Misalnya kalau dia nggak non-Batak ya, kalau non-Batak dia bisa lebih cari tahu tentang filosofinya aja dulu. Kalau udah tahu filosofinya, at least akan beli kainnya, menghargai artisannya, dan lama-kelamaan boleh datang langsung ke workshop Dami Ulos.
Right, yeah, interesting. So, Mbak Renny was saying that the problem why some people or the society, they are not really interested in producing the ulos traditional, yeah? It's because of the educations, and Mbak Renny has done the revitalizations, which means he has doing the education for the society. Interesting, yeah? And I think we have one questions, but this one is for 3 speakers. So the questions is from, hang on, Christian Natamado. The questions is, what is the issues, challenges, and the solutions in the preservation of traditional knowledge and the cultural expressions? So isu atau tantangan-tantangan apa sih? Dan juga mungkin solusinya dalam melestarikan kekayaan alam ini, kekayaan tradisional ini bagi Mbak Renny dan Mbak Lila juga. Because we are working in the traditional art like the Huichol, Ulos, and also Batik that is made by Mbak Lila. So who wants to start first? Maybe Mbak Lila?
Oke, tantangannya ya. Tantangannya adalah pastinya keterbatasan sumber daya manusianya untuk meneruskan semua ini gitu. Jadi kalau kayak tenun tadi mungkin kalau batik masih banyak, tapi kalau tenun di Jogja saya rasa itu peminat untuk menenun itu sedikit, dan itu yang terus mungkin saya sebagai membeli tenun dan saya buat menjadi sesuatu yang menarik, baju itu bisa membuat tenun itu hidup kembali. Filosofinya saya ceritakan, apa yang ada di situ gitu, pembuatannya bagaimana, itu tujuannya adalah supaya tenun ini tidak hilang. Karena berapa kali saya ke tempat tenun di Yogyakarta, bukan di Klaten ya, kadang-kadang Jogja itu dibuatnya di Klaten dekat. Itu penenunnya pasti umurnya sudah 45 tahun ke atas dan tidak ada loh, tidak ada anak muda di bawah umur itu yang memulai lagi. Gitu, itu tantangannya, dan saya masih terus belajar sehingga saya lihat Mbak Renny itu kagum banget bisa langsung turun gitu ya, pengen banget, tapi saya masih harus banyak belajar karena saya besar juga di Jakarta yang budaya saya 2, jadi saya nggak kuat gitu yang ada satu, saya belajar tahu banyak gitu ya. Jadi tantangannya juga itu tadi, dan masih harus banyak belajar itu.
So yeah.
Tidak bisa berhenti belajar.
Yeah. So Mbak Lila was saying that one of the biggest challenges was actually in the human resources.
Yes.
So she was highlighting on the woven materials or tenun. The one what happens in Jogja, most of it, or maybe there was no young women or young men as the weavers. Most of them, all of them were like age of 40 above.
Yes.
So this has become like the biggest challenge, how to preserve the woven materials in Java, in Jogja. Is it right, Mbak Lila? Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
And now let's see from Mbak Renny.
Okay, I have three. Saya punya tiga alasan, tiga tantangan. Saya udah tulis tadi. Yang pertama adalah paradigma soal penenun. Jadi kalau di sini yang namanya profesi penenun adalah profesi terendah. Itu alasannya kenapa mereka harus move ke luar daerah, tidak malu pulang kampung karena gue udah S1, gue udah D3, gue udah punya sarjana, ngapain pulang kampung? Jadi saya memutuskan pulang kampung supaya mereka bilang gini, oh Kari ini kan S1, ya example seperti itu. Jadi ngapain pulang kampung, ngapain malu untuk pulang kampung? Makanya saya selalu, kalau saya ada event, saya selalu kampanye, jangan malu untuk pulang kampung. Itu tantangan. Dan sampai sekarang itu masih butuh pembuktian yang lebih besar supaya mereka benar-benar yakin dengan diri. Misalnya sebenarnya sih nggak masalah mau di kota mau di desa. Yang penting jangan sampai punya paradigma kampung itu nggak ada punya masa depan. Seperti itu. Terus tantangan yang kedua adalah untuk di masa sekarang, di pandemi, kita para penenun memang mengalami kesulitan di bagian marketing. At least saya harus memutar otak bagaimana caranya mereka tetap produktif dan mereka bisa harga mereka tetap stabil. Jadi saya jual di live di Instagram, kemudian saya buat sistem cicil agar mereka bisa tetap produktif kan, karena kan itu tiap minggu gitu. Jadi jangan sampai terhenti. Itu saya kerjakan sampai 9 bulan ini dan semuanya aman. Gitu. Kemudian terakhir tantangan yang saya hadapi itulah kompetitor. Jadi banyak sekarang yang produksi ulos itu kain-kainnya itu di luar Sumut, tapi mereka nggak buat label bahwa itu misalnya semi mekanik itu. Jadi at least yang belikan itu misalnya kaum awam atau orang Jawa atau orang Kalimantan, mereka iya saya beli ini dari Sumatera. Nah, itu bukan tradisional. Nah itu tantangan-tantangan yang kita hadapi. Jadi untuk kompetitor sebenarnya lebih baik itu buat label misalnya ini adalah tenun motif ulos, itu semi mekanik ATBM atau ini printing seperti itu. Mungkin itu kira-kira tantangan dari saya.
So from Renny's point of view, the biggest challenges, so she mentioned there were 3. The first one is actually becoming a weaver is not a prestigious job. So what she has done, she needs to change the mindset of the society in there to love the job of being a weaver. And then the second one is about the marketing, especially in this pandemic. She has to think over and over again how to still make them producing ulos and sell ulos. So that's why she did some Instagram live and also promote the ulos and give them some arrangement to pay the ulos, so like installment, so then it will ease the customer to buy the ulos. And the last one for the challenges is the competitors. Nowadays, what is faced by Mbak Renny, the competitors are not really preserving the traditional motif. It's not only the motif, but also the way the ulos is produced. So, for example, it's semi using the machine and also all of those things. So that's the 3 challenges. And now let's hear from Cilau. What are the biggest challenges here that you face during this?
The challenges, it's also as Renny mentioned it. You know, it's I think that a lot of people now want to become academics rather than do traditional folk art. A lot of that has to do with that, but I gotta be honest though, you know, of all the tribe, 70% of the tribe actually makes a living through the arts. So by nature, we are creative people. It goes to the beads, the yarn painting, or music. It goes into all of that. But one of them is that them becoming modernized and thinking that the traditional knowledge is not gonna be useful. The other challenge is competition. You know, there's obviously a lot of competition, and not just that, but it has become, there's been a lot of culture appropriation. Nowadays, our people are known for doing the beaded jewelry, and the thing is that the competition is coming not just from another country, but it's coming also from other states where they use the same technique, they use the same motives, but it's not necessarily made by the same people. You know, like that's the case of the state of Puebla, where they do a lot of beadwork, and also the state of Chiapas, which is down in the south, and not just in Mexico, but also they bring a lot of beadwork from Guatemala. So in Guatemala, the labor is very cheap, you know, so a lot of the times people are miseducated that when they see a beaded piece of jewelry, they think it's the same as one done by our people. And I don't want to underput the work and the craftsmanship of the people from Guatemala, but you can tell right away when you understand the art, you can tell the quality is not the same, the color combination is not the same. It's also, you can tell right away by looking at it and feeling it. But unfortunately, in my case, the yarn paintings was one, it's actually, I believe, the technique that is the least practiced by our tradition, but it's because it takes a lot of time to create. So people don't want to, a lot of the times the yarn paintings are not necessarily valued as they should be because they take so long to create. Right. So people just say, you know, I don't want to be an artist and I'll just become modernized and not necessarily finish school or anything. So I think that's why it was very important for someone as a young figure to actually start pushing the new generations and say, you know what, I could have gone and studied computer science and not necessarily had anything to do with my art and tradition, but on the end, it was my choice, and I'm showing the world that they're wrong. You know, we can actually look at the traditional artwork. But you know, that's been the issue.
The issues,
also.
right. Yeah. So I think generally we have the same issues, yeah. So Mbak Lia was mentioning also about the human resource, but Renny also Cilau. Well, I still have around 2 minutes, but can you, three of you, give a very short message for Mbak Lila, for example, young designer, Cilau for young artists, and Mbak Renny for maybe young generations in Batak or in Indonesia. A very short message to them to encourage them to preserve our traditions. Please, from Mbak Lila first. Boleh dikasih pesan-pesan pendek untuk para generasi muda, terutama bisa Mbak Lila, para desainer muda, Mbak Renny, penenun, dan juga masyarakat di Batak dan Indonesia. Boleh dimulai dari Mbak Lila? Mbak Lila masih di mute, Mbak Lila, maaf.
Sorry. Kalau dari saya adalah selalu lihat dari dekat, tapi jangan takut untuk terus maju, itu aja.
Very interesting.
Bidangnya, ya.
Look at closer don't hesitate to move forward, gitu ya, untuk maju. Very powerful, Mbak ya, thank you. From Mbak Renny.
Oke, kalau dari aku, gali dan cintai produk tradisional dan mari menghargai artisan.
Excellent, yeah. Let's explore the traditional products and start loving the artisans, yeah. Excellent, Mbak Renny. Cilau, please, a very short message for the young generation.
I think that it's very important to know our roots, and our roots are reflected through the folk art. So if we don't know our roots, we don't necessarily have a way to go. So we gotta start by learning our roots and then expanding from there.
Amazing, yeah, amazing. Wow, this is very amazing, ladies and gentlemen. I'm so blessed to be among these great speakers. We are actually at the end of our discussions, but after this, we will have Mas Bregas from MTM. So he is going to have his time to launch the new website of MTM. Mas Bregas, the screen is yours.
Oke, terima kasih Mas Puthut. Selamat siang semuanya, nama saya Bergasari Mardoyo. Saya di sini mewakili komunitas kita Meet the Makers Indonesia. I would like to share you my screen. So this is basically, I'm going to introduce you to the new website of Meet the Makers Indonesia. It's www.mtmindonesia.com. So in this pandemic, we have a big challenge for the artisan in our community, Meet the Makers Indonesia, to do some marketing, to do some promotional things of their works. And one of the decision that we have to do is we have to do something different. We have to do something new and go online. So at the end, we are creating our own website. As you can see on your screen, this is our new website. I will go run through quickly into the website, and on the home screen here, you will be able to see the history of Meet the Makers Indonesia, and then about who we are, who is Meet the Makers Indonesia, and what is Meet the Makers Indonesia. And then on the online programs, you will be able to see our previous and ongoing webinars or incoming webinars, and then the workshop that we have done before and after this, and the future workshops, and then some other events such as auction that we have done before. And then on the next tab, this is going to be our future tab. So we will have the MTM tour or Meet the Makers tour. This is going to be the physical tour after the pandemic is over. But meanwhile, we are working on the virtual tour. So we are creating a virtual tour to some of the artisans that are in our community. For example, in the future, you will be able to see the area that Renny manurung is working, the Dame Ulos, what is looks like in their workshops, and so on. And then on the events, you will be able to see the history of Meet the Makers from the first Meet the Makers event and all the way to the last Meet the Makers event. And then on the blogs, you will be able to see some coverage of the media, some coverage of the videos or videos that are showing our activities in the past. And then we have the shop that will brings you directly to the page of each artisan and do some shoppings there. And we have some volunteer page that most of us are volunteers in Meet the Makers Indonesia, and we are very, very open. If any of you out there are interested to volunteer to help artisans on the Meet the Makers community. And then here, you will be able to see the maps of Indonesia. And on these maps, you will be able to see the location of each of our artisans. For example, who are our artisans in Java, in Kalimantan, in Borneo, in Sulawesi, in NTT, and so on. You will be able to click and find our artisan on each island. And this is the page of our products from each artisans. You will be able to see the whole products on all products tab. And then here is the profile of each artisans that are in our community. So if you click each profile, you will be able to see the stories of each artisans, the videos of each artisans, the story behind the works of each artisans, and so on. So one of the goal of this website is to give the artisan a proper coverage and publicity to get direct market, to support the sustainability of these important traditions, which some of them are already hard to find in this modern world. And at the end of, you will be also able to see the videos of Meet the Makers Indonesia that are linked into some of the media coverage and also our YouTube channel. And you will be able to join our newsletter to get information of our events and to get more information from our artisans. And then last but not least, our partnership. So we would like to thank our partners so that this website is a dream come true for Meet the Makers Indonesia. So I would like to thank the Embassy of the United States of America, the GAGGA, the Global Alliance for Green and Gender Association and Gender Action, and then the Samdana Institute, the Indonesian Heritage Society, and the Tracing Patterns Foundation. So that's all from me, the introduction of Meet the Makers Indonesia website, and feel free to follow our social media on Facebook, Instagram, email, and explore the website and get to know more about Meet the Makers Indonesia and the artisans of Meet the Makers Indonesia. Thank you. Back to you, Pak Puthut.
Thank you, Mas Brega. So MTM, or Meet the Makers Indonesia, as I mentioned earlier, is a collective of artisans, artists, cultural advocates with the desire to support, promote, and nurture Indonesian handmade craft traditions. MTM Indonesia is honored to receive the support from the U.S. Embassy. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that was such a very fruitful and inspiring discussion. I'm so blessed to be amongst these three speakers. I want to conclude this with a quote from Mahatma Gandhi. A nation's culture resides in the hearts and in the soul of its people. Thank you very much for joining, and I will see you there on another program of Ad America. Give it back to you, Mas Anton.
Thank you, Mas Puthut, and also I would like to thank all of our speakers for the awesome discussion that we just had this morning, and I hope that we are now more aware in creative economy and traditional art. So thank you very much. And earlier in the event, I asked you guys an icebreaker question, and the question was, which one of these sectors is not considered part of Indonesia's creative economy? Is it A, culinary arts, B, interior design, C, sports, or D, fashion? And the correct answer is C, sports. Congratulations to our winner, Edrida Pulungan from Facebook, for getting the answer correctly. And if you'd like to participate in more quizzes, we will have more quizzes in the upcoming Ad America TV episodes, so stay tuned. And now you might be wondering, how can you develop an awesome idea for a place like this? Well, wonder no more. You can come straight to our website at www.atamerica.or.id, click Create an Event, and collaborate with us and submit your proposal there. All proposals will be reviewed, and your event might just end up here very soon. And while you're on our website, don't forget to subscribe to our newsletter so you can receive information about our upcoming events sent straight to your inbox. Well, folks, this has been Grounding Creative Economy and Tradition, and I hope to see you guys again at the next Ad America TV event. Goodbye, everybody.